closest big town I'm at is 132 miles. Phoenix is 250 miles. So this is the area where I'm at. And the people that work at those jobs make over $150,000 a year. So you're talking about, those are the miners, the dragline operators, the truck drivers, the dozer operators and loader operators. Those are the kind of jobs, money they make.
Absolutely.
So here you are, find new jobs. You know what? They're putting solar fields in. Put them up 2 months. Throw them up in 2 months. Everybody's gone. How many people do they keep to work? 3. And they're giving them minimum wage jobs. No benefits. Guys, these are the jobs that are replacing us. So you can't sit there and talk that this renewable is going to be good. It's not good.
We share the same interest. What I've heard you all say.
But let me finish. Let me finish. This is my environment, okay? This is what I live. I don't come from the city. So I'm fighting for those people, the men and women that elected me, keep them employed. And here I am, and we're losing it. And it's because of environmentalists. The Sierra Club, the Grand Canyon Trust, the National Wildlife Foundations. They're happy they're closing the power plant, but they don't realize that this area, on this reservation, unemployment is 50%. Are they going to do anything about it? No. Because this happened in 2005. A power plant was closed in Laughlin, Nevada, that we supplied coal to. California Edison owned that power plant. At that time, they said, we're getting away from coal. They wanted to go to renewables. They closed it. But they keep running to Arizona wanting power. So they're using our nuclear power. And that's what they're getting. And then we have a hydro power plant right where a dam right where I live. Well, that's supplying them the electricity. So they're still getting it from where elsewhere. So it's a farce when you say we're going to be clean energy and everything when you're really not. You're using everybody else to get your power. And this is what we're living. This is the environment that we live in. So I just want you guys to know that. So when you say a coal miner makes $30,000 a year, not in my area. No. We work hard because of our union contracts. We work hard for those contracts to have that, to have our benefits. And I don't think I know one person that makes that kind of money right now. So, and that's out there in the Four Corners. And if you want to know what that place is like, go out there and see. There's nothing out there. You can drive for miles and miles and not see town. This is what we live. So when somebody says you can make a new job and new something else, it's a dream. In our area, it's a dream. And it's not reality. So I'm just telling you guys.
Thank you so much.
You know, we just want you to understand that this is not a white issue, it's not a black issue, it's not a red issue. But you stated.
Yes, sir.
You said this is a white environmental issue. Is that not what was said? In your opening speech, that's what you said. And that's wrong. If we don't get together as people, we can forget it. Now, you know, this is a governmental issue. This is an issue. Let me tell you what I know about the Southern Company, which is power plants. I know for a fact that they reached out and did everything the environmental part of the government told them to do. The problem was they spent $1 billion here to put this scrubber in. 6 months after they get the scrubber in, they said, oh, well, we want you to put this stack in. Well, that's another $1 billion. Then they want you to then they keep adding. And they actually shown how that they was leading them out, and they was just costing them a tremendous amount of money. But what they said was, look, tell us one time what you want done, and we'll put it in. and they was doing everything they could to burn clean coal. Look, I feel the lady that talked about her father died, you know, I can't tell you whether he died from coal-related issues or not, but my dad did. My daddy died because he mined the coal that got you power, that's got these lights on, that keeps this air conditioning on. Now, you know, I work down there. I don't know what kind of issues I'm going to have somewhere in the future. But we want you to understand that it's not always one-sided. You got to understand that the United States burns cleaner coal than anybody in the world. The United States has got, they've got technology to burn it where it's doesn't have any issues. But they don't put the money out there because the government stops it. And that's the thing against us, is working people, not black people, not white people. That's the thing against working people. And all of us are doing everything we can to make sure everybody works. You know, you talk about the green jobs. Again, these green jobs don't pay $10, $15 an hour. And I know I've got people that work in them, that's left coal mines, that's went to work in different industries and stuff. And they're coming back to the coal mines because they can't make any money. But at the end of the day, we want you to know, be educated on what you're saying. Because what we was hearing out of that panel today, we definitely don't agree with all of it. You know, we want clean water, we want clean air, we want everything that you're talking about. But there's ways to do it without costing some of these people money. And making statements like, you know, the white or the black or whatever, that's not going to get it. We're all going to have to get together. I've got a theory in Alabama. And anybody that don't know me, I'm Larry Spencer. I'm the president of Alabama chapter. And I'm very proud of it. And one thing we say in our chapter is, you know, if you send all the whites down to the Capitol and you stand in front of the Capitol, they look out there and they say, wonder what the hell they want. Then you send all the blacks down there and they say, wonder what kind of crap they trying to stir up today. But if we mix up and we all go at one time, they look out the door and they say, boys, we better do something. We got a problem. So, you know, we need to get together. You know, we come here. I started back several years ago coming. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't welcome with open arms. The first couple of times we came, you know, it was Coalition of Black Trade Unions, and it still is. There was a few people that opened their arms. Bill Lucy's one of them. But some people did not like the fact that here was a white man coming into a normally black conference. Well, we wasn't trying to infiltrate or whatever. We want to make it better. We want to reach out and show that we care about you. We care about everybody. And we want to make it better for everybody. And that's where we need to head toward. I mean, and you know, we understand. I understand when people are talking and making speeches. I understand why you use the whites and like that. But I really don't understand it because I don't agree with it. But I do understand that is the way it works sometimes. It's kind of politics, you know. But if we don't get together, if we don't all get together, and it can't be just the whites and the blacks. It's got to be the whites, the blacks, the Hispanics. It's got to be everybody. So, you know, we're just asking you to listen and to understand that there's more out there than what is being said. You know, like I said, you know, if and I work directly with Alabama Power because that's where a lot of our coal goes, and I mean, I deal with our Alabama Power CEO is one of the most friendly labor person that I have ever met, and he pushes labor, and he wants organized labor on his property. He sits down and talks, and he sat down and showed us what they was doing to try to keep burning coal, and they thought Alabama Power is one of the last ones to stop to pull some of the coal-fired power plants and change them to gas. And what you don't understand is you might get gas, but the question is, at the end of the day, are you going to afford your power bill and keep the electricity on? Because you're not. You're not. It's going to go a whole different direction. So, look, we're just saying, you know, think about it a little bit. We're all good with the green, you know, as much as possible, but let's don't chop our nose off the side of the face. So.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Bill. No. Go.
I just want to make a point, and it's for all of us, because a lot of us don't know the history of the struggle of CB2 to deal with the environmental questions. When the guys ran against the Patriot coal problem, the president of the mine workers, Cecil Roberts, says, "Can you guys do something to help us? We got a problem in St. Louis." We called the chapter chairperson of the St. Louis chapter and says the mine workers got a problem with Patriot coal, and their office is in St. Louis. Can you help us? And I would ask you to say a word or two about what he and the people he mobilized in and around St. Louis did on the question of the entitlements that mine workers had earned and are threatened to lose instantly.
Yeah, James came to an executive council meeting and told us that they were trying to Peabody, the largest coal company in the world, and Patriot, they were trying to take the health care benefits away from the retirees and the pensions, and that there were no coal miners there in St. Louis, although all those coal miners' headquarters was in St. Louis, and so that they was going to fight them, and the courts were going along with it. You know, they took the issue about them violating the contract to the courts, and the courts were going along with it. So anyway, that's the help. So they came in with a few people, and we brought a lot of people to help. We brought different organizations that we allied with us, from NAACP to the Urban League, to Jobs and Justice Ministers, and we had demonstrations. I think the first one started out with about maybe 400 or 500 people, but in the end, it was 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people there, and they had retirees bust in from all the same people in this room, bust in from all over the country from the mines, and people being arrested. In fact, myself, Bill Luce, and others were arrested in the process. But in the end, they won them, you know. And we were very proud to be able to help them in that particular struggle. But the environmental question, I know that's a tough one. That's a tough one when you listen to the coal mine sign, and when we listen to the environmental question on what it's doing to people's health as well there. And so I just think, like President Lucy said, we just have to have a serious discussion on that, on how you deal with that situation. And I'm not so sure I heard Peggy say it was a white issue. I'm not so sure. I mean, I didn't get that, but maybe that can be explained. But CBTU has always joined in with the miners on whatever issues that they have. And in fact, we pledged to do that in the issue that they have now, that they have in Congress as well. Because they were promised years ago pensions, etc. Thank you.
switch this from the, giving our folks a chance. And I'm glad to see so many other people from the other unions in here. But we never get a chance to talk to one another. I always, when I come to CBTU, Bill asked me for years to try to serve on the board. And I told Bill I'm better working with the rank and file. And that's the same way I do with our folks. But you got to understand what I'm saying, what I was trying to say this morning, and what I'm telling you, it's if we don't hear both sides of the ledger, we don't know what the problem really is. And that's what our biggest thing is losing our jobs. My mother is still a widow from my dad for 19 years now, but she's drawing his pension. And I'm showing you how I'm gonna go back into when these jobs and these mines started closing down, while we are fighting right now for our health care and our pension. My mother is still drawing my dad black lung, a disease that came from coal, working underground. Now, I'm saying, and my mother is still getting his health care that he worked 52 years underground for. We wouldn't have had all this still left for my mother and your mothers and fathers if we hadn't had this union fighting and making the fight for our retirees. So when someone comes up and says we need to get rid of all these mines, I just like for them not just to understand it's not just affecting auto workers, steel workers, mine workers, IBEW, all these other unions. It's also affecting our retirees, because when these mines shut down, our health care started trying to disappear. The company owes us this because of the promise they made in 1946. So you don't hear this when you have the panel, because the panel's telling you how they have to do their job. I'm telling you how we have to do our job, and that's to protect our rank and file people. And if we are good union people, a wrong to one is a wrong to how many? All. That's what I'm saying to you. That's the part we're missing. And it's hard for me to sit there knowing that I have to represent our folks and Larry has to represent our folks and be on these boards. And when somebody come up here and tell us economically this is, something that we have to do, but we don't know how economically this is affecting all of us. Well, it wasn't just the mine workers I was speaking for this morning. If y'all didn't get it when I was saying it, I was speaking for everybody else in that room that's fighting for their health care and their pensions, the ones that has to do this. And I was trying to educate everybody to understand that when the mine workers go down, there are a lot of other things. Steel is made by mine workers. By the coal that we mine. Cars are made by that. It affects all of us. And a wrong to one is a wrong to all of us. And if you don't feel what we're feeling, then we ain't the best union people in this room then. But I'm telling you, and so I want you to understand, I don't want you to be defensive. You can lay it on us now, but we want to be able to come back at you if you're going to lay something like that on us. This is what we do. This is what we have to do as officers, and that's leadership. I tell you, I just don't see it when somebody tells me that you got to understand why we want you to stop mining coal if you can't explain it to me. So if you can explain it to me, and you can tell me what we're going to do with these type of jobs that we had and now what we have right now, then I'm going to listen. But most people can't do that. And I do appreciate you, my brother. You're a young man, and I understand where you're coming from. And I appreciate you telling me that you just didn't know what you had to do this morning because you was told a certain thing, and I know you was trying to do what you were told. But now, I do want you to think and at least say something about what Larry was saying, because I hear the same thing Larry did. This is not a black and white issue. We don't want to give 45 or Trump, I don't give a damn how we call him, because I think it's a butthole anyhow. So, but we do not want to give him the edge. Our goal is to beat him. And I think he brought so much into this game and brought a lot of people out of the woodworks that tell you how they feel and how they really feel. Now, we had to let our members see for themselves, and our members see for themselves that these jobs are just not there. And it's going to be, we'll fight for whatever we have to try to keep. And when I got a 94-year-old mother that got the first stages of dementia, I will tell you right now, I'll fight to the death for that. For that health care. And I take it personal. And believe me, when I didn't have no notes, all of them was written right on my heart. When I said when I went to that mic this morning, because I think about her every given day. And any man or woman in this room would do the same thing I'm doing. But I do say, before you decide to make up your mind that coal needs to go, think what goes along with coal, what goes out the door with coal. And there's a whole lot of other union jobs that goes with it. And if you haven't jumped on this bandwagon to help us fight, please do. Feel free to do this. And like Bill said, on July the 27th in Castlewood, Virginia, in Southwest Virginia, we're having a celebration of a 30-year strike that we were fighting for then, what we are fighting for now, our health care. Now, so I told all our folks I wanted them here. They are all here. And I was so glad to start seeing people come through these other doors from these other unions. And it wasn't just a mine workers thing, because it ain't just a mine workers thing. Believe me, it's not. So thank you.
I'd like to say one more thing. I won't take just a second. To echo off of James, he talked about railroad jobs and stuff. Well, it's not, and he did say it's not just railroad jobs. For when a coal mine closes, for every coal miner that loses their job, there's 5 more jobs that get lost. It goes from railroad, it goes from truck drivers, it goes to convenience stores, and we watch them, insurance people, we watch them drop. When a coal mine closes down in a small town, we watch that town close. We watch it fold up. And so when you start talking about, well, we can replace these jobs with green jobs, that sounds good, but you're talking about replacing the coal miner's job. You're not looking at replacing that convenience store. And I'll give an example. We're involved in this fight for 15, and we go out and we try to help some of these people when they're fighting for these higher paying wages and stuff. And I stood at a picket line the other day with a man that I told him I couldn't stand on that picket line with him anymore because he started hollering 15, fight for 15, and we're gonna get 15 or we're gonna close you down. Well, I was looking at mothers who was saying, I've got a minimum wage job. This is all I've got. Please don't close my store down. Let's get them to 15, but let's don't threaten them to that. But that's what we do when we lose coal mine jobs too, is we lose other jobs. I wish you could just travel with us and travel up through the rural areas of West Virginia, the rural areas of Alabama, or Pennsylvania. I mean, there are towns everywhere that are folding up. So just think about that when you're doing your research and stuff.
I guess the first thing I want to start out by saying is thank you all for coming here. Conversations like this don't happen regularly in this country. And I think a lot of times we want to talk past each other. And so this is important, and thank you for taking the time. The second thing I want to just be clear about is I thought we had a particular defined amount of time, but if you all are willing, I think we are willing. I might have to run out to the little parking lot where I parked the rental car that I had to make sure I don't get it towed away. I just want to understand how much time do we really have here? Because we were told that this conversation would roughly be about 40 minutes to, I think, an hour.
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Yeah,
Okay.
Coach, 4:45.
Okay, so count that up to the medication that I'm not taking that I probably should. I want to then, the third thing do is I want to recap to you all what we have heard you say, and the agreement amongst us is that if I've missed something, to demonstrate that we have been listening to you, these other folks, my colleagues up here, will jump in and say, oh, but you forgot this, okay? But I'm doing this in an effort to validate your time, and make you clear that we have heard you. And then what I want to do after that is for us to sort of just take on different parts of the things that we've heard, and where we have agreement with you, make it clear that we are absolutely in agreement with you. And where we don't have agreement, figure out how we can work together to understand what's a good place for us to be. So if that's okay, does that sound like a good way to proceed from your standpoint?
Yes.
Okay, remember how I began this morning? It's like, I sometimes go to a black church when I don't, when I'm not totally mad the way. So is that a good way for you all? If it is, then tell me, yeah, it is. If it isn't, it is? Okay. Yes? Are we good? Are we good? I'm looking at everybody, so I'm really going to sweep around the tables, because if we're not capturing where people are at, then we should try to fix it if we can. So we're all good, yeah? Sweeping the tables, yes, over here. Okay. So, is Mr. Lucy answer? Yes, sir.
If I can add an amendment to your point, if we leave you with anything, it is remember what these folks said, because if you go teach about this in other places, it's important that you understand the implications of what they're saying. Did I miss something?
No, you're right. You're right.
Yep. And I'm hopeful that at the end of at least this chapter of our conversation, that will continue, that you will see that we stand with you on many more things than you might think. And the function of how the panel was put together and the time that we had, what we were told and not told, may not have done the best for us to display all of the ways in which we believe we are in solidarity with you. But let me try, and then we'll go from there. One of the earliest things that I heard in the conversation was a discussion about the disappearance of history and culture. The history and the culture of families who have worked in the mines to provide power to this nation when many people wouldn't even give them a second look. And what I heard in that conversation was also a sense of the fact that people were being looked down upon when they worked in the mines, despite the fact of what they were doing to make this nation what it is today. Does that check out? Yeah? I heard that folk were living with the result of the health consequences long before, and that you didn't necessarily need people to come and tell you that, because indeed your whole life's history, your family's life history, in many ways proved out to you that what was going on in terms of making the power that made this nation possible in many ways was also impacting your families very directly. Does that check out? Yeah? Okay. I heard that despite what it may have seemed like this morning, that there was no real attack directed at those of us on this panel, right? And does that check out? We also heard sort of this analogy that coal doesn't sort of pull the trigger for the kids in Chicago, and that coal doesn't, necessarily sort of do the harm that it's equated to been doing over the years, right? We heard, at least I think we all heard very clearly, that thousands of jobs have been lost in the coal industry. And there were many, many, many descriptions of whether it's on the res of the Navajo Nation, or whether it's at mines in rural places, whether it's at power plants, or et cetera, that there's lots of jobs that are lost in the coal industry. There was a question posed to us as a panel, a very direct question, which was, tell us how a $35 an hour job is equivalent to a $7 an hour minimum wage job. And that when a mine closes, union membership plummets. It is true that things are changing, but when people talk about that change, someone needs to explain to all of you how is that going to make your families whole in terms of the abilities to earn what they have been earning and how they've been able to provide for their families. Does that resonate? Have you heard that correctly? Yes. We also heard a lot, and thank you to Mr. Lucy, about the founding of CBTU, and the fact that it's really, the early founders of CBTU were mine workers, and that they play a significant role in sort of the history of moving this body forward. We also learned that there was some conflict with you said, Mr. Lucy, the environmental justice movement, and I do want to come back to that and clarify that, especially as we start out this process. We heard that there's this chain connection between a coal miner's job and other jobs in the communities where the mines are. And in fact, very deliberately, one of your leaders, ma'am, talked about the whole issue of the schools sort of, literally losing all of their funding when mining jobs are lost. And we talked a lot about the Navajo Nation and the 50% unemployment that exists there, and that the idea of the closures of mines will hurt the Navajo Nation, and indeed have already done so. We also talked about the fact that solar fields have been put up in some places, and what happens when they get put up is that there are jobs to put them up, but then the jobs that remain in terms of the long-term viability of that sort of economic transition is just 3 jobs, was the exact number that you pointed to. Does that resonate as being correct? And you talked about the pain, and a lot of people were expressing pain, right? Whether it's about the pain of a mother who is drawing her husband's pension, or whether it's about the pain of the Navajo people that you obviously clearly care about. And I want to make sure that you understand that we care about all of those people too. And we will try our best to demonstrate that to you. I heard that, and I think we all heard that Sierra Club, the notion that Sierra Club is going to be able to talk about these green jobs, but that's really just a dream, right? That the green jobs are going to be able to replace these jobs, the coal mining jobs, that is indeed a dream, right? There was discussion about the Southern Company, power company, and how that company has spent $1 billion to put in scrubber technology, and then when that scrubber technology was put in place, they were then told, no, you need to put something else in. And what the company was basically saying was, tell us one time what you need us to do. And the company was described as one that was doing everything that it could, in essence, to help meet the demands of trying to burn clean coal. And the other piece of what we heard in that part of the conversation was that there are, in the US, that we burn the cleanest coal, and that cleaner than anyone else in the world. There was a lot of conversation about the issue of that this is not a black struggle or a white struggle, but it's all of us struggle, and it's a working people's struggle, was the way that sort of came forth to crystallize what you were trying to say about not black, not white. And that came a lot from Mr. Spencer. Brother Spencer also said that there are ways to do it without costing people money. That was something that I heard you say, meaning ways to take care of the environmental problem without costing money. Did I hear that correctly? Am I getting most of what you said? Hopefully all of what you said.
I'm not sure I said it that way.
Well, we can come back, but that's the way I heard it. So rescue me at the end, and then we can figure that out. You also said we need to get together. You gave a great analogy of, if white folks go down to the Capitol, they're like, well, what's their problem today? If black folks go down to the Capitol, what's happening with these folks? But if we all go down to the Capitol, they're basically the people inside those buildings start to say, oh, well, I guess we got to do something. Did I get that one right?
You got that.
Coming down to the end here, there was some talk about the fact that if we transition to gas, that may be something something that causes problems further down the line in terms of the cost of energy. And I thought that was very interesting to hear that. But you brought up the point that we may not be able to afford the gas later down the road as well, and so that we needed to be mindful of those types of things. I think Lou talked about the struggle with Patriot Company, where they tried to take healthcare benefits away, and there was a lot of discussion about the fight that was mounted to make sure that the benefits that people had negotiated for in good faith and earned weren't suddenly snatched away, and that was something that CBTU folks lended their strength and their voice to, and I think that was important to hear as well. Lou also raised the issue of the point that Peyton was raising at the very beginning, when I think people heard the idea of that this is a white folks issue, but we'll come back and clarify at least what I heard him saying, and he should clarify what he said before I say anything, and then we will get that. But that's what several people I think may have heard, but Lou said, I don't think that's exactly what I heard, but he asked for an explanation of that. Is that fair? We also heard at the end again from Brother Spencer that if we're not hearing both sides of the ledger, then we cannot understand the problem. I think that came from you, right, Brother Spencer? And then Brother James talked about protecting the rank and file, and that was a key thing for the efforts, and that was something that he did really well, even when Brother Lucy was asking him to come and join the union himself. I hope I didn't give you my cold.
No, I think I caught it before you. I bet you.
We heard very clearly that a wrong to one is a wrong to all. We heard about a celebration in Castlewood, Virginia, I believe it was.
Yeah.
But we didn't get any dates and information, so
July 27th.
And again, this point ending up on the point that every coal miner job is a loss of 5 jobs. So bringing back to that chain, if you will, of the connectivity of the coal miners' jobs, the jobs lost, and that when we, meaning us on this panel, talk about this issue of transitioning to a green job, that we're only talking about the coal miner job and not really the other jobs that are part of that chain. So first I'm going to turn to this panel of fellow colleagues and say, did I miss anything that you all caught that I should have said? If I did, speak.
You got it.
No. Now back to you guys. Was that an okay recapitulation? I may have to go back to Brother Spencer. We may have to get something sorted out there.
I'm confused on where I said that, but I may.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. But that's okay. Yeah. Do you think I captured?
I think you did a good job.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, don't clap yet. Don't clap yet. We have a lot of work. We got take him where I can get him. Okay. I just want to, at the outset, and the reason I said don't clap yet is because we want to build trust with you all. We are earnest and sincere, and that's what we want to do. I heard, quite frankly, several mischaracterizations of who we are and what we know, and that we're experts on the green thing and on other things. But that's okay, and I believe that just shows to us the level that we have to work in order to sort of gain trust and open up and let you know who we are, how we've engaged, the fact that, I've spent time on a res, I have, just me personally, I hired someone whose family was from West Virginia into my organization and cried when she left to go back to West Virginia. I'm like, girl, you're in New York, come on. And I understood and I learned a lot from her through that. But we are, in our own beings, much more than it's possible for you all to know by some short snapshot bio. But I think the most important thing to convey to you is that the struggle that you have articulated in these few minutes, just as it does not capture every single pain and hurt or joy and triumph that you've experienced over the years, it's true for us too that in these short interchanges you can't know us and therefore may not have the level of trust that I hope we will be able to begin to build so that we can move forward together in terms of this conversation. But the one thing that I want to start out by correcting and then open to the panel is that the environmental justice movement is a movement born out of the civil rights struggles, the anti-toxic struggles, the public health fights, the environmental movement. And from each of those things, we take certain things. And believe it or not, the environmental justice movement also draws from the labor movement, both from tactics and political frameworks. And it has made us as a movement far more multidimensional than the plain, what we call mainstream green movement. And yes, we do say a mainstream green white movement, because when you look at the leadership of the environmental movement, in fact, all but one of the green groups in this country, and hear me out, all but one of the green groups in this country are led by white people, primarily white men, and there's only one mainstream green organization that is led by a person of color, and that woman is an Asian American woman, and she's getting ready to leave at the end of next month. And so we will be back to that. And that is out of more than 50 plus organizations that are at the helm of making environmental policy in this country. And so when we talk about the environmental justice movement, we are talking about organizations that are led by people of color and, yes, low-income white folks. And in fact, some of those low-income white folks come from Appalachia, the heart of the whole country. And so we work very closely with our low-income white brothers and sisters. We work with people of color, and we make a distinction between our part of the movement, which is led by voices of people who are impacted by many of the things that you discussed, between us and the broader mainstream green environmental movement. And I believe that is part of what Peyton was starting to say as he opened up. But our movement, the environmental justice movement, believes that people in communities on the front line of many of these challenges, whether it's coal power plants or whether it is polluting factories and facilities, that those folks need to speak for themselves. That part of the problem that we have is that the people, whether they're in Washington, or whether they're in Lansing, or whether they're in whatever capital of whatever state, is that they're not listening to us on the ground in our communities. Right? And that the policies that they're making are causing us harm. And to this point around the climate crisis, that the policies that they are either making or supporting or allowing for industries to extract extractive fossil fuels in the way that they do are also causing the planet an existential threat. And so I just wanted to set that straight. And then there are a number of things that I think we as a group probably want to respond to. And so I'll stop talking for a minute, or more than a minute, and allow my colleagues to pick up on any of the threads that they would like to.
Hi everyone, I'm Donnell, and you may remember I'm from Detroit. I'm from the auto capital, what used to be the auto capital of the world. We put the world on wheels. I just, as Cecil said, I really want to sort of open up and let you know how much I understand what it means to lose jobs at a great level. And what that also means when it comes to health impacts and whatever that I and my family have personally experienced as a result of it. So many people may not know this, but Detroit as a city was built to accommodate 2.1 million people, and at its height, that's what we had, 2.1 million people in a city that could hold Manhattan, Boston, and San Francisco at the same time and still have land. Okay? Today, we would be happy if we could reach 600,000 people. Okay? And you may have seen all the stories over the years about the vacant land, the shrinking cities, and all that kind of stuff, mainly due to the industry leaving us for the south of the border. Flint is another example of that. My first cousins, my auntie, and all of that They experienced the same thing. And that's one of the reasons that the Flint River wasn't usable. Okay, because the industry did have carte blanche to discharge its industrial waste into that river. Detroit River has 400 companies that have the legal right to discharge. They have a legal permit from the Environmental Protection Agency to discharge their industrial waste. And that is a burden on our drinking water source and what have you. But I don't want to go there. I want to talk about what brought me into this work. One was that my stepfather, who worked for Chrysler, who in his 30s, coming home from work, had a massive heart attack and left my mother widowed with 6 kids. I know what it's like to go from a well-paid job to being on welfare and receiving food stamps to make it, okay? That's what got me into the occupational health arena. And that's what drove my passion to do the work. And while doing that work, I was really motivated to make sure that people, especially that look like me, had a voice in the quality of work and the health and safety on their jobs. Because I know my dad, he was my father. He took care of us. I know that had he had a better work environment, similar to the miners, he may not have died in his 30s. Okay? So that was a lifelong sort of commitment I made. Now, the joke was in the 70s and 80s, the last one out of Michigan and Detroit turned off the lights. We're still hurling from that. They stopped counting at 60,000 parcels of contaminated land, right? Left behind by the industry. But that's the bill we had to, as the people who were left behind, had to carry and bear. So I understand. So for me, when this opportunity to get involved in health and safety work, even when it came to the environmental justice piece of this, made a whole lot of sense. Because it was about connecting with people who can help people like Detroiters get back on track, to get jobs that would be family supporting and healthy jobs and all that kind of stuff. And the glimmer of hope for me was, man, if we could transition our communities and find another kind of opportunity for our communities to get back on top, where we were the cradle of the middle class, we birthed it, right? The auto industry did that, right? Especially in the North, it did that, right? So I was motivated by that. And I just kind of want you to understand how I got into this movement. Peyton was 2 years old. For transparency purposes, I am his mama. We do share the same last name. Just so you know. And that's why I'm pleased to be able to say, because of him follow me to meetings and community meetings and union meetings when I was on the union staff and that kind of stuff. He is now a leader in its own right in trying to be that generation that take this to the level that we all deserve, right? So we have been working. I'm one of those people who proudly say that I'm not an environmentalist. That might sound weird. Because I'm not necessarily a tree hugger. I'm a people hugger. And it's all about people for me. It's about making sure that people like your mom lives her life out with dignity. Our fathers, our grandfathers, our children have a future, right, that honors their health, their body, their communities, and open up whatever track. The green industry is not the only track. Well, we kind of bring that to have people begin to think outside the box. It is not the last word. It's not the last deal. Now we got folks building a new plant in Detroit. People are really excited about that. They're talking about 5,000 jobs. But in talking to the people from Chrysler who's doing this expansion, that they're doing this with green in mind. That's what they promised me when we had a conversation. I just want us to be at the table, working side by side. They're promising that there won't be these triple tiers of salaries and that kind of stuff, that they would honor people with decent salaries and that kind of thing. This is what the EJ movement is about. One of the tenets of the EJ movement is that we do speak for ourselves. We don't allow other people, just like the labor movement. You at the table, you speaking for yourselves. So what comes out of the stacks or out of the mines and all that kind of stuff, it does somehow trickle into the communities. Is there technology and engineering that can be done in a way that protect you as workers and protect us as those on the other end? Yes. Are multinational companies doing this in other parts of the world? Yes, because they're mandated to do it. Can we mandate and drive that kind of thinking here in our own country? Together we can. I was so happy when the UAW reached out to me and said, hey, we got this CARET team. We know you're doing work around the environment, trying to clean up the environment. Can we find ways to work together? Your friend who's no longer with us, Dr. Andrea Kidd-Taylor, right? Industrial hygienist for the Health and Safety Department of UAW, connected me to the Detroit folks who were doing that work. And we have been working together ever since to figure that out. I don't know everything and how it all works, but I'm open to learning, and that's what we've been trying to do. And to respect and honor the leadership and the voices and the minds and how we approach this, just as I don't expect everybody to understand how we do it. And if they're open to hearing us, there is some way we can come together on something we can all agree on. Maybe not on everything, I'm not that naive, but we can. I am pleased to be in this room and see the diversity up in this room. I'm glad, brother, you up in this room, because I have lived long enough to understand that if we're not working together, we're going to be having the same conversation 30 years from now. We got to work together. We got to come together and figure this thing out, right? So I didn't mean to offend. I'm passionate about how we can work to protect this one earth that we have, this one planet we live on together. I think there are solutions and strategies, and I believe together we can find them. So if y'all with us, I'm with y'all, and I'm hoping that this is not the last conversation, like Cecil said, but that together we can walk this thing out into the future. So we work with Appalachian folks, we work with all kind of people. If you on my side, we can make this thing happen, and I can be on your side. So tell us how we should do this thing, because change is in the air. And the way 45 works, divided we fall. Divided we fall. Keep up the hate and all that kind of conversation out there, because that keeps everybody confused and targeting folks and side-eyeing other folks, and I don't trust you and you don't trust me and I don't like you and you wear a skirt and I wear pants. I mean, come on. We all gotta eat. We all gotta breathe. We all need the water. We all need the land to produce good food. So we all can have the life that God intended us to have. That's all I'm gonna say at this moment. I'm gonna sit my butt down too.
Hi, this is a very important conversation. It's the kind of conversations we want to have. I thought that friction today was good friction. We've been in union meetings roughly for that. So well, hey, but I just want to make some points that at least
A little bit louder.
We can't hear you.
Sure. The first thing I want to say is that there are certain things going on in this world that we cannot control. I came here from Los Angeles to fight for free public transportation. I have no ability to get it. I'm trying to get 1 million black people out of prison. I've worked on it for 15 years. I cannot get anybody out of prison. In South Central Los Angeles, 50% of the people have no jobs, and I work with these kids. And putting, for instance, yes, using coal, using oil, didn't care, internal combustion engine, the Industrial Revolution. I think the Industrial Revolution was in fact a disaster. And I think the Native American people would have said, we don't want this. Because it should be obvious if something blows smoke up into the air, it probably isn't going to be good for your lungs. So here's what I'm trying to say. I came here to do three things. One, to talk about a couple of books I wrote on organizing. Number two, talk about free transportation. Three, that they're attacking black people on the trains. I didn't say anything about coal. But if you want to know what I think about coal, a couple of thoughts. One, we do understand how great you are. Maybe you think we don't. I've been in the labor movement 20 years. I'm an auto worker. I'll tell you about it in a minute. I went to the Stearns, Kentucky mine when I met the miners who were out on a wildcat, about 15, 20 years ago. And I supported them. And they came to Los Angeles and we built some books with the compliments this man says, he's a good miner. And he had cuts on his hands and burns. He talked about all the burns inside, the sparks going on. I said, hell, it's hard enough being an auto worker. I have great admiration for what you do. And it was a great honor when he said that he'd be a great miner. You know like how great you folks are, but that's not what this discussion is about. The discussion's about that sub-Saharan Africa is really going to go under with millions and millions of deaths through drought, through flood. You didn't do it, I didn't do it, but the system is doing it, and we need to change the system. Now, the last thing I want to say is I'm an auto worker. You heard that I said I helped to save 5,000 jobs in Los Angeles. But as I understood the environment, I went to my own auto workers and said, we got to change this. I don't think we should be making all these autos. And they trusted me. They didn't like it, but they said, Eric, if you could get 5,000 jobs in LA, you're not trying to get rid of our jobs. I get that. But I said, look, we got to look at something different. We tried to get our own union to just simply support CAFE standards, which could at least force the companies to make 35 miles a gallon, 40 miles a gallon, 50 miles a gallon, and the leadership of our union would not do it. In fact, they shut down the factory for one day so we could call Washington and say, we don't want fuel-efficient cars. So now the UAW is coming around saying, gee, why are you going after the auto industry? Because you didn't even want to work with the environmentalists 20 years ago. And when I was in the factory saying, why don't we call in Washington, my union came down against me, but I was in the union. So some of us were for it, and some of you were against it. Here's my point. I think we need miners to be looking at this problem from the whole and saying, everything you said is legitimate, but there's other alternatives that are also legitimate. And you need to be in the leadership of figuring this out, because the system doesn't care about you. They're playing, right now there's free marijuana. All the black kids are in prison who were allegedly when it was illegal, but now that it's legal, you know who's making it? Philip Morris. The same bastards that killed all the people in the smoke are now going to get, all right, you want me to get out of cigarettes? I'll get out of cigarettes and I'll do marijuana. So the same people that are trying to get rid of you, they're going to get rid of you. I didn't do nothing. And when they get rid of you, they're going to invest the same money into something else. So I care about you. My heart breaks for you. My heart breaks for the auto workers. I know them. They're my brothers and sisters. They closed 8 plants in LA. And I was just with some people today, two black brothers, and they said, if we kept those plants open, we would be talking about Crips and Blood. Because we were making $15, $20 an hour. When I got in the auto industry, and I went to Cornell University, and I've been in the movement my whole life. I went in politically to be an auto worker. And you know what I stayed? First thing, damn pay was good. I couldn't believe it. Like, what, $15 an hour, 22 time and a half? I had never made so much money, and I've been in the civil rights movement. Secondly, I loved the auto workers. There was 5,000 of us in that factory. People, the Mexicans would be selling stuff. Everybody would be hustling. So everybody had a side gig. Everybody would be selling something. I lived with them for 15 years. You think I want them to lose their jobs? Or you think
trying to talk about some solutions and
Yeah.
get right to the meat of stuff.
Yeah.
Because time is ticking, and it's all about finding some solutions for the coal industry. So I just have some very relevant questions. You guys are doing research, so my first question is, making the coal plants cleaner, how much saving of air pollution does that do? Have anybody researched that?
Yes.
What's the percentage? Just give me a percentage.
I don't know. Because we weren't prepared to have this specific conversation.
Okay.
I can't give you specific answers.
All right.
Can I just lay? This is exactly where I was going.
Okay.
I was trying to lay a few other facts on the table that we are aware of that we want to share.
Okay. Let me just go through this because I'll be much shorter than you because I don't talk a lot. Dylan, you talk about the coal. When you lose plants, it costs 5 different area jobs. I'm in the auto industry. When we go down, it costs 8 different jobs. Okay, and just example, talking about clean energy. General Motors decided to go to electric cars. Guess what? The electric car plant is closing. Everybody there is going to be out of business. To me, they should have diversified instead of going totally electric. Didn't agree with it. Now they finding out it didn't work. Largest dang-gone plant in the city getting ready to close. All those people out of a job. Next, my question to the gentleman in California. Emissions. Tell me how much in percentage have California got better? You got the strictest emissions in the country. So how is that helping you?
Oh, you want it now?
Yeah.
They're not strict enough. 50% of the auto, you don't want to, they're doing good things in California.
Okay.
50% of you want,
Okay, well, I just wanted to hear what you said. You said it's not enough, right?
Wait,
It's not enough. So my thing is, as a group, how come we can't start making all the rest of the states have the same emissions as California? Nobody else has it. So if we did that, I'm quite sure that would make a big difference in the United States if everybody had California's emissions.
We agree.
Because it's the toughest in the city. Then my next question, dealing with clean energy, who is really writing the book? Is it some special interest group trying to get some money? You got to research that because pharmaceuticals doing the same thing.
We agree.
Everybody's doing the same thing. So you got to find out who's funding that before we talk. And I feel that dealing with the care team, somebody in the coal industry needs to be on the team because we need a diverse group with a lot of different thoughts, on the team. We can't just be narrow. We got to be, diversified. And, if we do get new jobs with this renewable energy and they talk about all the jobs they create, well, 9 out of 10, guess what? They ain't going to be where the coal miners are. They're going to be out of state somewhere. They ain't going to get them, so they ain't going to help.
Can I speak on the technical quick? I'd like to give you guys an invite. I'm from Canada. I'm an international officer out of Canada. We're on the North Dakota-Saskatchewan border. We do have a power plant that's got carbon capture technology on it. 300 megawatt unit. It's roughly equivalent to taking 250,000 cars off the road a year. And I'm offering an invite for you people to come up, and I'll take you for a tour of that plant so you guys can see, so you can push your government down here to start putting them on the coal-fired power plants down here because it does make a difference.
I'm happy for the invitation. I have many thoughts about carbon capture and sequestration and can have that conversation with you, but happy to go see what's going on.
But it did work, so working together, we're willing to work together.
Okay. So a lot of, I think there's a sense that what we've been fighting for is creating the loss of coal jobs. And I want to just say to you all is that from what we've seen in terms of our own research, the loss of coal jobs is not because we've been successful in terms of getting policies around transition to cleaner fuels or any of the such. The loss of coal jobs are a factor of what we understand to be the industry's consolidation, which has been a practice that they have been engaged in for quite some time. And you can tell us if you think differently or if you know differently, but this is what we understand. That the consolidation of the coal companies themselves as a way to keep profits rising has led to the loss of particular jobs. And so we understand that part of the problem. We also understand that the coal industry is not one coal industry across the entire country. Coal that's produced in Appalachia is different than coal that's being produced in the Northwest, I'm sorry. And that there is a structural economic difference in the cost of production for coal in the Northwest versus coal in the northeastern parts, midwestern parts of the country. We also understand that as a means of trying to, again, continue to increase profits, and we would love to hear from you all if you all have felt that you have reaped the benefits of all of these profits, that they've done that off of the back since the 1980s of workers like yourselves, using mechanization, to increase production out of the coal mines themselves. And that, I think, has also, in some ways, led to a particular loss of jobs, is the way that we understand it. But those are the kinds of things those are the kinds of factors that are beyond us, right? That we understand have been playing a role in the coal industry's loss of jobs for a long period of time. And we put it to you all to tell us, is that what you all also understand? Have you seen that in your industry? Because it is not, I can't point to the fact that we have been so effective in terms of getting this set of policies in place that they have led to the retrenchment of jobs in the coal industry. So that's one thing that I wanted to sort of put out there. And this is not our research as a movement. This is not us sort of, to this point of who's funding the research. But this is literally the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports. I mean, this is the dry nonsense that I tend to read a bit of. You might think, well, it's sad for me, but it's where I get some of the information that I'm bringing to you from. The other thing I also want to say is that when you hear us talking about just transition is not just focused on the coal jobs themselves, right? We understand a couple of things in the environmental justice movement. One, that there is dignity in work. I grew up in a working class family, a middle class family. My family is comprised of those types of folks. And so I know that work and hard work is nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's the kind of thing that brings dignity to people. And so I would not be investing my time in trying to say that, anyone who works hard, anyone who is engaged in the honorable things that you all have been engaged in terms of helping to power this country, should be suddenly cast aside. That's one. And then two, I want to be clear that when we talk about just transition, that we're not blind to the fact that for the coal miner, but there go 5 other people by the grades, right? And 5 other jobs to be specific. And so when we talk about just transition, we're often at the forefront of talking about 2 things in particular. One is, how do we make sure that because work is such a central thing to so many of us in our lives, right? How much hours in a day do we spend working, right? It's so critical to how we define ourselves. Many of you in here have said, we come from a tradition of families who have been coal miners for decades, right? That's a way of defining yourself that cannot just be cast aside by saying, let's just move to another job. And so when we talk about just transition, the environmental justice movement talks about how do we make sure that that history, that legacy, that way in which people think about themselves and define themselves is preserved, is made sure to be not something that we just cast on the heap of history. So we talk about this in terms of how do we make sure that the pain of that transition is something that we are working to provide resources to people to help them move through. A lot of times when this economy moves, whether it's from an agrarian economy to an industrial economy, or from an industrial economy to a digital economy, nobody cares about those types of things, right? It's just like, oh, just go get another job, right? But that is not what we mean when we say just transition. We are recognizing that as human beings, you all are whole people, and that the transition of a job that has meant so much to you and your family does not come by easily, and that we have to do something to make sure that there are resources, whether it's mental health resources, whether whether it's training resources, whether it's all the other types of things that are put together. And we want to have your help in fighting for those things so that this is a more holistic transition. And the second thing that we say is that no one person who has a job, no coal miner, no auto worker, whether it's, I heard 1 in 8 with the auto workers, just to acknowledge that I did hear, that for us is not to be focused on just as one single job, but it's how do we make the economy of a local place work really well, right? And part of making that economy work and recognizing that it's not just one worker is that we have to look at this in that complete chain in the same way that you all are seeing it. And so I don't think we have a difference there at all. I think we are talking about what does it mean to sustain the economies of places locally. So that's another way in which we are very different from our mainstream green environmental colleagues. And we fight internally in our environmental movement to push for that distinction. And so that, yes, sometimes you may hear Hillary Clinton show up, and in many instances, sadly enough, she is listening to the Sierra Clubs of the world, right? And whether well-meaning or not, yeah, she said what she said. And none of us in the environmental justice movement, I guarantee you, would have ever said that way. Right? Now, what we will be straight with you is and say that we recognize that the science says that all of the fossil fuels are a problem. And we are trying to work to figure out how we deal with that in a way that's within the time frames that science tells us that we need to. And we're not going to sugarcoat that, we're not going to hide it, and we are going to ask for help to helping us figure out how all of us together make this transition work most effectively. So that's those couple of things I just wanted to lay on the table.
Let me add something into this in another way. You have mentioned justice transition. I think that your motivations are positive, but the sources to make those transitions are basically governmental. And as long as you have even with democratic administrations, we have not had transitions to appreciate the cost of bringing job training programs to our communities that made any sense. Now there have been some monies that have sort of come, that wasn't much, and that's one of the problems. But let's go back to this issue of the loss of jobs in coal country. And I think one of the problems with this conversation is that it tends to be more focused on coal. Coal is not the only problem that is associated with the transition that's taking place in this society. We have lost coal jobs for a great reason of technology that has been brought into the coal mines. I had the opportunity last August to go I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, we're a coal country. I'd never been in a damn mine in my life. Mr. Hope, who lived across the street from me, that was his source of income. We had one other person in my neighborhood who worked in the mines. So that was my knowledge of the mines, was Mr. Hope, that was his job, and there were a whole lot of other folks. But the other transition from coal that's taking place is natural gas. Yes. And the price of natural gas has been going down for the last decade down to what it is now. The transition to natural gas into the generation of generating capacity has then made the economic decision for that transition. So then you got the folks who are out here talking about we got to kill coal because it fouls the air. There is truth to that, but that has not been the main transition from coal. It's been natural gas and the economics of it. So we have got to try to integrate these factors in a way that we appreciate. Now the mine workers today, they're talking about Mr. 45, sold them a bucket of bullshit. Okay? Now, when you are a person who has been working in the mines for 4 and 5 generations, we can take any of the coal miners in this room at this moment, and we will have 3 to 4 generations of mine workers who who are continuing that. Now, you see your life evaporating in front of you by all of these other factors that are kicking into the loss of your life force. Here comes a fellow and you are thirsty as hell. You see it just evaporating. And then you see a fellow walking down the damn road. He got a bucket. He got a little spatula in that bucket. He says, oh, I got water in this bucket. And you say, I'm thirsty, man. He ain't got to you yet, though. He's got the promise of that bucket and some being in that bucket, but ain't a damn thing in that bucket. Okay, but the lies that he told my people to say, I got something for you, there has been 0 to none jobs created in coal country because of anything that Trump did or said. Let's be clear. He's a con man that conned a lot of people. Now, I'm not going to go into the racism part of it. I'm not going to go into the part of it that says, I resent. I'm not going to go into the part of it where dumb white folks get conned by other white folks to accept the kind of mess for 400 years that they've been accepting because they have been fed one thing consistently. You is better than the nigger. And so you accept your reality because you can't see yourself partnering with these black folks, because if you saw your economic interest with these black folks, and Trump just expanded that definition of black folks into brown, into immigrants of all sorts. So let's understand on that side. But back to the real deal, in our case, the United Mine Workers, our pensions fully funded until the 08-09 recession. Fully funded. We lost $2 billion. I ain't talking about $1,000. I'm talking about billions of dollars that went down the rat hole. You mentioned a few minutes ago the issue of consolidation. Somebody got a little bit more money than somebody else. They then used the bankruptcy process to shed off the liabilities of healthcare and pensions, to then create clean, hard assets. Then they can turn around with those clean, hard assets and resell them. Or come up with another company, put the same ruling class, management type back into the new thing, and they shed those. So the mine workers fight with Peabody in particular, because they did a little spill off and created another little shell over here. But with Peabody, now we ain't gonna give you a damn thing. We done shared your liabilities for healthcare and pension. Oh, bye y'all. You know, the mine workers said, the hell with you. You gonna give us what you have stolen from us. Amen. And the leader of the United Mine Workers said, bullshit. And started picketing their butts everywhere and in front of their headquarters. They got so tired of it, they said, okay, if you stop picketing us, we'll give you this. So we gotta dance, and let's try to understand the dynamics of what is happening. Automation is killing us. Natural gas is killing us. Bankruptcy is killing us. Now, how can this kind of conversation seek a common ground based on an understanding of what reality is, not stuff that is just thrown out there? Let's try to understand what reality is, and let's try to understand what you all are talking about of justice in communities is the right issue, but you got to be sensitive to the impact that those issues have on actual human beings' lives. This ain't no theoretical bullshit that we dealing with. We dealing with lives. Last Congress, we got 22,000 healthcare, retirees healthcare coverage. $3 billion out of this government for 22,000 retiree families. This is life that we're talking about. We're talking about people having to make decisions. Do I eat or take medicine? That's what we're dealing with. So I think that the outcry that you heard today is simply saying, don't run this intellectual bullshit on me. Understand my reality and the impact of what you are talking about and how it can impact me and my family and my community. I'm hip to this justice movement. I remember a lot of meetings I went in Alabama, Louisiana, with Petroleum Company years ago. I'm glad to see y'all still alive. But I want you to understand what you are talking about and its impact on lives. And let's understand all of this is always about one thing. When they brought my black butt here from Africa, it was about one thing. White folks getting more money. That's all it's about today. More money. More money for those who got money. There is not one thing that the United Mine Workers of America has gotten in 127 years of their existence that was not fought for.
That's right.
Not one thing.
Yes, sir.
Because those owners didn't want to give them a damn thing. So let's be clear. That's the big. Understand the reality of what you are talking about and how it impacts. That's all.
And I think this is the kind of helpful thing, right? Because right in this conversation right here, like I said the word mechanization, early in the conversation. And all of these things are forces that are not things that are being driven by us. We're not the ones taking these jobs away. What's taking the jobs away are economic systems that don't put you all first, right? It's not us in the environmental justice movement saying that, there should be fewer coal mining jobs. Now, we can be clear that coal is a part of the climate crisis problem, but we're not taking those jobs away. That's these companies like a Peabody, like the others, right? Taking their profits more seriously than they ever would take you. And in this conversation right here, I learned a couple of things. If there's a $2 billion lost pension fund that you all need to recover, then our language about just transition needs to incorporate that, right? Our language, that's easy for us to do, right? That is easy for us to do. What's hard is for us to join with you and fight together so that just transition piece is something that is inclusive of.
As they used to say when I was in the legislature a long time ago when I used to be a politician, let me explain this to you.
You're doing a lot of explaining. I'm loving explaining. Okay.
So let's use that explaining. Okay.
Did you hear what I said?
I heard you, but I'm saying let us incorporate that into the thinking as you go forward.
Can I just ask a question about one other thing? Mm-hmm. So the health benefits piece, right? You're talking about the loss or the fight that it was Patriot. It was another Pete. Thank you, Patriot. So, I mean, to me, those are the kinds of things that when we talk about a just transition, that's what we need to be talking about. How do we make pensions whole? How do we make healthcare whole? As you all you know, as if we are transitioning to something else, then those things need to be discussed so that we can say, this is what we mean. This is what the language is.
I give you my card. We
need you.
got 120,000 retirees that we are trying to get pensions for at this moment. Legislature is pending in the House and the Senate. We can make this very specific.
Let's do it.
And eliminate an illusion.
This gentleman in the back. Yes, sir.
After what he said, but anyway. No, I guess where I get confused is you keep saying we're not taking the jobs away, and maybe you're not, but anytime you enforce a law or a rule on these corporations where they have to go spend money like you talked about with transportation, if they got to spend $1 million to outfit a bus, then they're going to lay off 10 employees because their profit is not going to change. So when you're making these changes, it does end up being a job somewhere down the road, no matter what it is. I mean, not just the coal miners, everywhere.
That's right.
You know, even with in our corporations, so AT&T, they get fined for disposing waste or something, and now they got to go out and refit all of their locations. Well, you better believe there's going to be a layoff to make up for whatever amount of money they spent. So don't just get confused with thinking, oh, well, we're just making everything nice and good again. They're not going to spend the money.
I don't think, I'm with all due respect, I hear what you're saying. I don't think that we don't believe that some of the policies that we talk about aren't going to lead to changes in this industry. If you're walking away thinking that any of us believe that, then we need to do a better job of explaining ourselves. But let me just
Hold on
say,
a second before you respond further. The gentleman over there just said when he was dealing with UAW, they say, hey, why are you starting trouble with our people right now? Because it's going to cost us jobs. So obviously you're having a conversation without talking to the people who are actually doing the work. Talk to them first and then go have the conversation. I think that's the missing piece. You're not just making a decision without talking to the experts.
and we are happy to have this conversation. As you've heard from some of us, we've had certain conversations with people that we believe to be in the industry, and we're willing to have more of them. But just let me say this one piece. The point for us is, I liken it to asbestos. We have come to understand that asbestos is a problem. And so we are also clear that if you're working in the asbestos industry, that when we talk about just transition, then we've got to figure this all out. Healthcare, pensions, retiree benefits, training for something else. How is it a mental health coverage to make sure that people aren't just struggling with like, oh, I've lost my job, right? That's a real thing. And so we want to do this in a way that allows us to do it in what we call a just transition. And the truth is that that term for the environmental justice movement comes out of the labor movement. Like people like Tony Mazzocchi and others who were the OCAW and others, those are the people that birthed this concept. And so it's us learning from the labor movement to talk about how we make these transitions correctly. And so yes, we do need to talk to you all. That's why I opened by saying we apologize for any, construct that may have said to you like, look, we don't care about you. We do, right? And it's not from us having malice or just like oh, just discard the coal workers. The history of what you all have done for this country is clearly not told. And I liken it to the same history of slaves that built this country as well, right? It's another hidden way in which the people who work hard to make this country what it is completely erased. And who gets the glory, right? The corporate heads, the leaders of these corporations? No, that's wrong. And that's not what we're trying to do. We are trying to say, yes, we want to hear you. We want to have more of these conversations. And I'm very serious about, like, if it's a $2 billion pension fund, let's fight together for that. Let's fight together for the things that you all else see as a way to make this transition happen. But we're not trying to pull anybody's eyes over with wool by saying that we don't believe that coal is not part of the climate problem, because we do. And so we want to be upfront about that. And yes, we're not naive that the policies that we may push are going to create impacts. But also don't blame us, right, for economic forces and corporate decisions at Peabody and Patriot and Dominion and all these other corporations that are really at the front line of the job losses, right? So that's all I'm saying. Yes, sir.
That's what I want to sort of close on this point of it, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but just say if we had to be in this meeting today, would we be in this point right now like we are right here, talking about the things we're talking about? Those questions would have went by the wayside because actually you all were talking about a lot of things that wasn't so, and that's what he's talking about. The BS that we have to hear from companies. I'm also the organizing director. When you say they combine these coal companies and that's where you're losing jobs, that's not so. They are trying to get rid of the union. Now, if you want to go to the meat of the problem, this is what we hear all the time from coal companies, from auto workers companies. This is where the steel workers, everybody's hearing the same thing. If you get somebody to go out and speak on the stuff that they want to get out, and I noticed what you said, at all these environmental groups, who's leading the groups? Who did you say was leading the groups?
White man.
Now, so what I'm trying to say to you, and that's people with money don't want to talk to us that don't have money. Now they want to tell us or get somebody to go out and tell their lies for them. And spread it. And I know you don't mean to be doing it, but I know, believe me. I know. But this, I believe me, that's what I'm trying to say. But just suppose we had not been in this meeting this morning and heard this. That's what, brother, I'll give you a chance. I just want to say this. It's just what you, I listen, y'all listen, so now, but that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, California may be doing a lot of great things, but the pollution is still there.
It's the worst.
And that's what we're saying to you all. Natural gas and gas and oil is trying to put coal out of business because they don't want the competition to help on these electric bills and stuff that people can't pay. Coal is cheaper. They know it is.
And the BTU.
And they know it. And you can buy it and mine it cheaper than you can drill for the oil and the gas. They know that. These regulations that Trump called himself taking off trying to fight against Obama, you guys don't know this, but they're not closing down these mines, these drift mines like they're supposed to. They're supposed to shut these mines down. When they shut them down, they're supposed to close them up after so many months. The 69 Safety Act brought that into effect. Now they're not doing it. You know why they're not doing it? Because they can run them gas and oil lines right through the mines, and they got no inspectors now because they land them off. Now, see, you all don't know all this, but this is the reason we got to have these conversations. Now, oil and gas can preach all they want to, but they're trying to put mine workers out of business.
Okay. The real deal.
And this is what I'm trying to say. And the environmental people, when they come in, no matter what you say, even right now what you're saying, that we you have to let us help you do this. I guarantee if you go in Appalachia and Southwest Virginia, in those areas, they ain't gonna believe, first thing they're gonna come in, they're not gonna believe a word you're saying. Because they don't trust you. Because see, you've been preaching the other way. Not you all, but some of the other folks. Big money has a way. Anybody that tells me they wanted this CEO to come in and be our president and thought he's gonna take care of our working people, you're a damn fool if you got to do. Because I'm gonna say, I've never seen a CEO yet to give a damn about us.
That's right.
Now, so I'm saying to you, you got to understand all of this, and you got to know where it's coming from. This goes deep, real deep. And that's what I say to you earlier. You can't tell me how we're going to fix some things without fixing it all the things. Just like Larry said, if we're going to do it, we got to fix it together. Because I'm telling you, I listened to you good. When you said what you said, that the majority of these environmental groups were led by rich white men, if you think that they were out there trying to help us keep our jobs and keep us working, then we all a damn fool. Now, I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, we appreciate you, but we have got to come short. They are trying to destroy our unions. The auto workers I can just say, y'all got people right now on temp. The majority of these temp workers are tucked over the auto plants. Now, they keep trying to say the coal plants and all, but the temp workers is killing it because They know they don't have to pay them benefits. They know they don't have to pay them the early wage. They were paying people. They know they don't have to pay them pension. They know they don't have to take care of their health care. And they hire them for $15 and said, take that. And you live with it. And how many of you think these young kids, they live with their mom and dads already?
Yeah.
And so they don't have to go. I'm organized director. I hear this stuff all the time. It's no easy way to find a way out of this unless we work together. And if you sit back, if the auto workers sit back and say, okay, it's the mine workers' problem. If the mine workers sit back and say it's the auto workers' problem. If the steel workers sit back and say it's the auto workers and the mine workers' problem. It's all our problems.
If we sit back and say it's all their problem, right? We gotta work together.
I say to you, and I say, my young brother, when he was talking about it this morning, we got a problem. And our labor movement at the top ain't helping us a whole lot. But if we don't do it, together, and I don't care what we say and leave out of this room, but if we don't go out of here with a plan at some point, I know we can't plan it here, but we have got to get together. They are after our unions.
Yes.
And they don't care how they do it. They worked on the mine workers for years. They first tried it 30 years ago by taking the health care away from our pensioners. My daddy worked 52 years underground. I would have been less than his son to let them take his health care away. I would have died before I'd let that happen. And that's the way you gotta have it. You gotta have it in the heart.
Yes.
I'm telling you, we don't have it there no more, and we're not preaching it no more. People can find a whole lot of things better to do than go to their union meeting on Saturdays and Sundays. But they better start back going. And we have to give them some reason to come.
That's right.
Now we get in these meetings, and everybody have a lot of BS. I'll go to organize a meeting, and everybody talking about how great everything is organized. And then I hear them say we don't went from 15 million to 11 million. If I ask them, if everything is so good, why in the hell are we in this room? And you're talking about how the workforce is declining. Something's wrong with that picture. And so it's hard for me to sit, and I told you there's no disrespect, but when people get up and say, this is what we gotta do, and this is how we gotta do it, and we gotta save it, I agree with that. But we're getting killed every day in our communities. So we're not protecting our communities if we're letting people they spreading us out. Just watch and look and just listen to the news and pay attention to your communities. We got so many things that they're working on against us, but workers are not working together to save us. So I'm saying to you, brother, we would love to have your help, but you're gonna have to change your presentation.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying to you. Because the research you've done to give that presentation this morning, if you've been doing the research the other way, you'd have found out real easy what the mine workers have been working on, because we've been working on it for about 30 years of saving our health care. The companies have figured out a way finally to get us. They couldn't move the company from across to another state or to another country. So instead of taking it around on the other side of the mountain, what they did was they declared bankruptcy. That's their way of trying to get rid of us. And a lot of folks been helping. So, because we were one of the most radical, the most liberal unions in this country, and we still are. I don't believe I could ask any of these people here that wouldn't get off their butt anytime we need them to come and help us do something that we need to do to save our jobs and our health care and our pension. That's where we're missing out on.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you gave us this opportunity. Bill asked me, he said, you need to come to this evening. We needed this conversation, but we needed more in the room.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. I guarantee you, people that may have a different opinion this morning, after hearing this today, you got a totally different opinion, because you see now what we've been talking about. Now, we got a resolution coming up tomorrow. I hope that you all will support it. We need your help. And it's about our pension. Our folks said years ago, my dad was one of them, said years ago that we'd take a smaller pension to keep our health care. Well, we got our health care fixed with the money that we lost. saving 22,000 pensioners. And now we got about 106,000 pensioners that could lose their pension in a couple of years. Now, we used to own hospitals. This is where this promise come from. We had 18 to 22, somewhere around in our hospitals all over the country. The federal government come and asked us for these hospitals. We used to be the largest union in the country. Had all kinds of black folks working for them. All kind of Polish, every nationality you could have. They done that because they didn't want us to organize, but when we organized, we were strong. But they asked us for our hospitals. We gave them to them because they wanted to be able to service the veterans when they came back home from World War II. That's the reason this thing was set in place in 1946. Now, they owe us a promise. We're not going to quit till the last man or woman leaves this earth. Am I right?
Right.
That's the way it's got to be. But it's the same way that we feel about the auto workers. We've always been brothers, and that's the same way we feel about the steel workers. That's the way it has to be. And if brothers and sisters, if you all want to help, we never turn down good help. But when I say you have to change your presentation, you'll have to change your presentation, believe me. If you want some people to support you all. Because it's not going to end with that, just right there.
I think we can do that. That's not a problem, and this is what this is about, to learn and to make sure that we can do this right. I'd like to just get with you to understand the resolution, and if there's something that specifically my organization can do, it's a letter of support demonstrating solidarity.
Well, we'll take the letter of support to anybody. Any of these politicians that you all know or may know, please, we'd love to have your help and have a letter of support.
And then to the brother who was formerly a politician, I don't know your name, brother? Tony, brother Tony. We certainly want to get together and learn more about some of these things.
Don't take that formally serious.
I'm not gonna mess with that romance between the two. I think just as we close out, we're just gonna say a couple of last words. But most important, well, I'll say this until the very end. So close out, say whatever last words that you all want to say, because I think we are at time.
I just want to say thanks again. My willingness and openness to continue this conversation to work so that we all can be on the same page. That's just there and working together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And obviously I have 2 books I'd like you to look at and help you organize. This could only happen with the Coalition of Black Churches. This would not happen in the air without these are 2 different organizations. Not to talk about our work, but to learn about everything. It's been an amazing conversation, and it's been a real honor to listen.
Yes, and I similarly just look forward to, like, as I said at the end of my remarks before, just look forward to deepening the relationship and supporting this aspect. Thank you.
I hope that you all have seen that we are willing to listen. We are willing to go to Canada. We're willing to go to West Virginia. You invite us, and we will try to make it make our level best to get there. And I hope this continues, and that maybe next year we can come back and start working over the year to a real process where we are working together collaboratively with the CWTU and all of its sort of member unions to actually put something down on paper that's very concrete, so that when we go out, we're going out together. So thank you all. Much love.
I thought you had something you were trying to say.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate your candid perspectives. And I do want to close and let you all know that we do share the same interests, right? That I would never dare dream of telling you that we're taking your job without having another one in place that will still support your family, right? I love you all so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you all around, and hopefully I still got a job next year. Thank you all.
Bottom line is, like I said, they're trying to get rid of you.
That's what I know.
They started